Welcome back to episode 3 of Ranjha Season. It's your host Japjot aka Daddy Jot aka Gurwara Daddy aka Ranjha. Welcome back my Khan missionaries to episode 3. So this episode I want to focus on something that the namesake of this podcast sort of started, Ranjha. So in Punjabi community we have a few love stories that I want to highlight in a mini series that's gonna be really quick, very rapid compared to my other podcasts. So why not start episode 1 on the story of Heer and Ranjha themselves. Let's get started. So the title of the poem and the story is actually called Heer and is written by Varis Shah in 1766. The story follows Heer Sliti and her lover Ranjha. So Ranjha is actually his last name. His first name is Dedu and he's born in the Pind of Takht Hazara and is the youngest of his 4 brothers and also the favorite of his father, which allows him to sort of spend the days doing nothing at all and practicing his craft of playing the bansuri, which is the word for flute in Punjabi. Shout out to everybody that's young out there or the youngest of their siblings who are allowed to get away with a lot of things. And I can speak about this firsthand because I am the youngest in my family. I can definitely see the privilege that comes with that. Back to the story. So Ranjha being Ranjha, he spends his days doing nothing at all, sitting under the tree and practicing his flute. This eventually angered his brothers who kicked him off the fields and sort of sent him on his way. There's another version as well, where Ranjha is living his life and his brothers are okay with him, but eventually his sister-in-laws stop giving him food, which force him to wander around in the villages to try to get food and water. This eventually leads Ranjha to the village of Heer. Heer is instantly attracted and falls in love with Ranjha, and Ranjha is instantly stunned by the beautiful smile and look of Heer. This is basically me falling for the Instagram models, and unfortunately it is 1766, so he just couldn't double tap and DM her. So Heer, not wanting to be separated from Ranjha, invites him to work on their dad's dairy farm for 12 years. That's where Ranjha works day and night. So the guy who would not lift a finger at his dad's farm or with his brothers is now so in love with this woman that he is willing to work in a dairy farm from a rich family just to see her every day. This leads to Ranjha practicing his flute every night and Heer coming over to visit him. These little shenanigans eventually reach the ears of her uncle. To be 100% certain, before Heer's uncle could accuse Ranjha of Heer of anything, he dresses up as a beggar and while he sees Ranjha eating a piece of bread, approaches him and asks for a bite. Ranjha, unaware that this is her uncle, gives him a piece, remembering the days of when he used to be starving and hoping for food. When her uncle gets the piece of bread, recognizing it as Heer's baking, runs over to the village and proclaims that Heer and Ranjha are having an affair. Her parents are furious, but also understand the love of Heer and Ranjha, and understanding that Ranjha is from a noble family, agree to marry the two. Unfortunately, the clan of Heer comes back together and decides that Ranjha, though he's a nobleman, is not from a noble enough family to marry into theirs. This eventually leads the local priest to step in and marry Heer off to a distant and rich noble family. Naturally, Ranjha is heartbroken. He is left to wander the empty villages all alone. He eventually runs into a clan of Jogis who are well known for piercing their ears. This is where Ranjha gets his iconic look of his ears pierced, and he denounces all world items and materials and decides to join the Jogis. Joining the Yogi clan, Ranjha is told to recite the following: all young women are your sisters, and any married woman is now your mother. Beg through the streets and the cities, and bring no shame to the profession of begging. But Ranjha throws away the begging bowl, and his guru says, I was right about you. You are not a real jogi, and you can never be, because you are from a noble family and do not understand our ways. But Ranjha laughs and smiles back at him and says, how can I call somebody who is married a mother when I have become a jogi for the reason that my love of my life has married off to somebody else? I cannot call her my mother. Seeing the pain in Ranjha's heart, his guru, his teacher, decides to send his crows out and look for Heer. This sort of looks like Game of Thrones right now, sending out the crows. But the crows go out and eventually find Heer in her village. Ranjha decides it's time for him to bring his Heer home. He goes over to Heer's village to go find her. Eventually, he ends up at her doorstep and instantly they fall in love once again, rekindling their old flames. Here, Heer's sister-in-law, Seti, notices that Heer and Ranjha have still a passion for one another and decides a plan to help them get back together. So Heer and Seti walk in the woods and Heer cuts her foot on purpose to make it seem like a snake had bitten her. Seti goes home, tells her brother that Heer's been bitten, and the best way to cure her is to take her to this wise yogi who is just in the pin right now, and they should seek his guidance. They make their way over, and Ranjha cures Heer of the cut, and her husband notices something different between this yogi and the others, and instantly starts questioning what is going on. The next night, Heer and Ranjha devise a plan to run away together, and they do. Heer's husband is angry and furious. He sends his guards over to capture them, and they are actually successful in bringing them back together to the court. There, they are tried, but eventually the true love of Heer and Ranjha prevails and is shown to everybody else. But Heer's uncle cannot live with this idea that Ranjha is marrying Heer. So he comes up with another smart idea on his end. They plan the wedding of Heer and Ranjha. And on the night of the wedding, he makes a poison laddu. So laddu is a sweet in the Punjabi community, and he gives it to Heer to eat. Unknown to her, she eats the laddu without knowing it's poison and passes away. On the day of the wedding, Ranjha, unknown to the fact that his wife is dead, goes over and is celebrating and ready to marry her. Sadly, the news hits his ears, and he cannot believe it. He runs over to the side of Heer, and noticing that she had passed away with the laddu in her hand, he quickly runs over to her side and eats the laddu himself because he cannot live without his Heer. And that is the epic and tragic story of Heer and Ranjha. For me, I think it's a very powerful one where sometimes no matter how hard you try in life and no matter how hard you try to achieve something, the latter part of that outcome may not be the best for you. Like Heer and Ranjha, they tried so hard to be together, and at the end of the day, they thought they were going to get what they wanted and they were cheering and celebrating, but unfortunately, it didn't work out to their benefit. And these stark comparisons between Heer Ranjha and Romeo and Juliet definitely are there. I'm not sure if Shakespeare wrote his Romeo and Juliet first or if it was Vadashah who wrote his Heer Ranjha, which is based on a true story. It's interesting, and like how I talked about the supernaturals, the superstitions that people have, and it crosses cultures and communities. We see the same effects happen here in the love story category. There are a few other ones we'll talk about later on, like Mirza Saba, and it sort of follows the same dynamics. It's actually written by the same individual as well. And I won't dive too deeply into the lyrics or the poetry itself, but I think this is a good overview of the story itself. And if you know any stories that you like to hear or any love stories that you know, different variations or versions of Heer Ranjha, I know there's a few movies that were made on the story itself. I'd love to hear it in the comment section and let me know. So to provide you a little of a sneak peek for my next episode, it's actually going to be ASMR, so I'll be talking like this. And if you really enjoy me talking like this, maybe I can make more videos or stories. So let me know what you think and we can definitely check it out. ASMR episode 4. You heard it here first. So if you really enjoy something like that or want to hear any new stories or any new ideas on the Ranjha podcast, I'm definitely open ears, open eyes, I guess, to read all your comments. Let me know. That was episode 3, hosted by your man, Ranjha. You can always catch me on RanjhaSeason on YouTube and on SoundCloud as well. Instagram is Japjot Lail, JAPJOTLAIL. SoundCloud, it's RanjhaSeason. Twitter is oh snap, it's Japs. Spotify also is RanjhaSeason. And there you have it. Ranjha out. See you episode 4. Or I guess you'll hear me episode 4. Bye.